Evening, everyone. Praise God for the opportunity to be here again today. Thank you so much, Brother Sanjay. Thank you, everyone here, and Brother Daryl. And we thank you again for the opportunity to share this information. Not to dictate in any way, but simply to share the Word of God and ask God for His help to follow it. Because, God's Word is powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. And so we need to completely surrender to God, that He may give us the trust that we need in these very hard times. I want to also state that, there was maybe some messages that would suggest that we look at COVID seriously. We very much do. There are many people that are suffering, that have suffered, people that we know personally. Even somebody called this morning, whom I know personally, who says, I have COVID. Now what? And, immediately it's like, do you have oregano oil? Yes, okay. Get some orange juice, put some in, drink that. Get your feet in hot water, put the cold compress on your head, because she said she's had temperature of over 38, 39 degrees for a long time. She says, I can't possibly keep this. But I said, okay, keep the head cool, feet in hot water. Why? Because the head needs to be cooled at all times. The body can deal with high temperatures, but the head suffers with high temperatures, and you have convulsions, and you have other very negative effects. So at all costs, keep the head cool, and the body itself will manage itself. And actually, high temperature is a good sign that the body is dealing very well with this virus. But also keep drinking. So these are the things I was telling her. And within maybe an hour or two, the head temperature had calmed down. The body was still hot, but it's okay. The head needs to be cool. And she had the drinks, and she felt a little better. And now she said she's going to try and rest and go to sleep, which is another good action to take to allow the body to heal. So we're very much aware of the seriousness of this condition. We're not belittling it at all. I think what we are doing is uplifting God's plan. And so sometimes when we uplift God's plan, it seems we are diminishing the risks or the seriousness of COVID. That's not the case. It's rather that God is uplifted. And because His plan is so simple, for us it looks too simple. It looks like, what is that going to do? But I've had that reaction from people with cancer, from people with high blood pressure and diabetes, and from people with pericarditis. And it's when the action is, or rather the plan is put into action, and the effects thereof, that's when they're like, oh, I didn't realize the importance of exercise, and so on. So please know that we are not belittling COVID in any way, shape, or form. We're taking it very, very seriously, because it's a serious virus that has taken many lives and are still infecting many others. But know also that God takes our what affects us very seriously. He has said that He wants nothing more than health for us. He says, beloved, I wish above all things. So as you can see, this is very important to God, because above all things, He wants us to be well. He wants us to be well physically, mentally, and spiritually. So I pray that has set your mind at ease, that COVID is not being belittled, not at all, or rather that the seriousness of the infection is not a small matter. I just wanted to clear that right away. Today we're going to be dealing with some more in-depth information. Most of the information are out there. Most of the information have been It's not something that we're making up. It's not something that we ourselves are being presumptuous about. It is information that have been studied by scientists and doctors, and which we can have the opportunity to see and pray about and understand, and then act accordingly. So I just want to ask God at this time to be with us as we continue with this topic of God's plan for health, really, and God's plan for cancer, God's plan for high blood pressure, but specifically with the big problem of COVID, how it can help us in this COVID era. Let's pray together, please. Our Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for the blessing it is to meet on this platform, for the privilege it is to speak to your people all over the world, but specifically India. Thank you so much for their willingness to listen to what I have to say. Really, I have nothing that is good in me, nothing that I have to say that is of any benefit or any wisdom to anybody. But it is only because you have revealed information that you want everyone to know about, because you want everyone to be well, and you want your plan to go to the ends of the earth. And so, Father, I pray that you be with my mouth, you be with my heart, cleanse me from all unrighteousness, and help me to speak only that which you give me to speak. And I pray that that what I speak will be understood, and that as you give us the strength, we will do them and recognize the wonderful benefits that you have for us. Please be with everyone and keep us all. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I'm just about to share my screen so that we can begin with the presentation. I will also be endeavoring to answer some questions. Okay, bear with me a second. Share my screen. I'll be endeavoring to answer some questions later. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so yesterday was a blessing. We tried to take away the mystery that surrounds COVID for some people. We fear that which we don't know, isn't it? It's quite scary when you hear so much about it and you're like, what are they talking about? Spike proteins and all these things, cytokine storm. What do you mean? Sometimes it can be a bit hard, but it's easier if it's broken down. So we try to break it down. The coronavirus really is not a new thing, but on this scale of infection and death, it is. But of course, if we think about SARS and MERS, these were actually, somebody asked me about that yesterday. How come it's having so much of effect now? Well, it's happened before with SARS and MERS. They were types of coronaviruses, and they eventually, we didn't have a vaccine for those. They basically work themselves out with some measures that were put in place. And so corona is yet another one that has taken the whole world by storm. We understood that it attacks especially the lungs. Therefore, that precaution needs to be taken. It will affect those with respiratory ailments a little harder than others. We also discovered that really we should not fear. Most people recover swiftly. Some people have it and don't actually know that they had COVID, because to them it just felt like a cold. And I spoke to a young lady the other day whose mother has it, And her mother has it quite bad, but she's like, yeah, I just had a little bit of a headache, and she's in her early 20s, and I had a little bit of a sniffle, but I went straight for the oregano oil, and I did this and I did that, and within a couple of days I was okay. Her sister also got it within the same household, and her sister also followed the plan, and she was fine after 3-4 days. Her mother, though, who has respiratory ailments and who is slightly overweight, I think is taking a harder hit. Also, she's a hard worker, and so her immune system is probably less effective because maybe she's not getting as much rest as her children. But they're all recovering. She sent me a message last night. She's doing very well. Still feeling a little tired, but on the mend. Praise God. So a huge number, even people with underlying health conditions, are recovering really, really well. And it is said that if you get COVID and you actually have natural immunity for 5 to 7 months. So that is about similar to how the length of time they give for the vaccine also. This approximated that you would be giving some aspect of immunity, but at the same time they cannot be too sure. But there are some information that are coming out saying that if you get COVID, actually you have some amount of immunity because your T cells will remember if it comes back that way. We discovered also that God's plan, or rather that God has a plan for every single disease, and even COVID-19. So even COVID-19 does not faze God. God is so awesome, and his ways are very simple. It's simple so that even a little child can do it. It's simple so that every single person on the face of the earth could understand it. And it's simple because every one of this plan is available to everyone without money, without price. You're saying, well, I have to buy oregano oil. It's quite pricey. Okay, even if you didn't have oregano oil, there are many other wonderful natural plants, natural herbs that would be able to help you. We learned about the effectiveness of the 8 laws of health and how crucial, and also what they had to do with COVID. We learned that sunlight, fresh air. In fact, in every situation, try and open your window, get lots of ventilation, because this is very effective against COVID. And it is effective against COVID spreading amongst the family. We learned about the importance of sunlight. Do you know, I can't stress vitamin D enough, brethren. I really can't. The science is just keeps coming and is reoccurring. The strength of vitamin D against COVID and all other infections is crucial. And in fact, there's some research that suggests that people of color tend to get the likes of high blood pressure and diabetes and cancer. They're starting to get those diseases more and more because of their diet, yes, but also because of a lack of vitamin D. It is clear in every single research that vitamin D is very effective for the immune system. Of course, in India you have the sun, but who sits in the sun? So not many of us are getting sufficient amount. So it's crucial. Of course, God created the sun, and the exposure to the skin gives you that vitamin D that is so important. We learned about how important it is to eat well, good nutrition, because the nutrition becomes your blood. And if you're having foods that are salty, that are sugary, that are fatty, that have no nutrition, that have a lot of acidity and no fiber to help the bowels to move daily, or at least twice daily, then the body gets into a position where everything starts to suffer. Then we looked at all these common and powerful antiviral effects, or rather antiviral herbs, which are very effective for viruses and other, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and even pests as well. So basil, sage, lemon balm, mint, fennel, rosemary, elderberry, echinacea, licorice, astragalus, neem, moringa. I didn't mention moringa. Someone mentioned about how do you build sufficient chlorophyll or HB. And I mentioned many things. I mentioned, the leafy greens and so on. I mentioned blackstrap molasses. I mentioned making sure you have sufficient vitamin C and B12, because these are all involved in HB synthesis. But I forgot moringa. I think moringa is very much available in India, and this is a wonderful herb both to build immune system and to build good blood. Of course, there's ginger, there's garlic, there's onion. We showed you a simple onion poultice, which we'll show you again, just in case some of you left before we did that therapy. Elderberry, rosemary, ginseng, fennel. We could actually list a lot more, but you have a nice short list. Even if you have 3 of these, you would be doing very well. You have to do this consistently and persistently with much prayer, because ultimately God is the one who heals. But if you didn't have any of these herbs, but you had ginger, you had cayenne, you had turmeric, you have coriander, you have cumin, these are all very powerful. I did mention also that if you have high blood pressure, don't use licorice. Licorice is very effective, but it also raises blood pressure. So I just wanted to repeat that. But we'll continue with more information about, okay, fine, you're saying COVID-19 is a virus. It's a virus that it can affect us very seriously, but that there are some people who are more at risk. Perhaps I need to start to think about reversing my risk factors, like being overweight, taking certain, eating certain foods. I'm going to start exercising and drinking more water, okay, and I'm going to, make sure I get some vitamin D at least. I'm going to do all those things. And, we learned that those who were older had a higher risk as well, but not all older people are affected the same way. Depends how strong you are, how healthy you are, though you may be older. There are other risk factors that we didn't talk about too much. That includes the job that you do. My mother is a matron in a hospital, and so she is right at the forefront of helping people with COVID-19 in hospitals. So she would have a higher risk factor than me, who live out in the middle of nowhere, so in nature with lots of trees around, breathing fresh air and making sure I go for my walk and so on and so forth. So her risk factor is higher than me. So, also bus drivers and other public sector workers, they are also more at risk. Teachers also, because you're more exposed. And so for that reason, these individuals need to boost their immune system even more, because you need a greater defense. So we've looked at God's plan for coronavirus. But others may say, well, what about the other plan? What about man's plan for coronavirus? Because surely it seems to make sense. Okay, let's have a quick look at man's plan for coronavirus. According to Dr. Peter McCullough, early treatment of coronavirus could have prevented 85% of COVID-19 deaths. Early at-home, look at this, early at-home treatment also minimizes the spread, as the amount of time you're infectious can be reduced from 2 weeks to 4 days. And that's exactly what we've discovered. For most people, it's 4 to 5 days. For those who have struggled a little bit because maybe they started acting a little later, it's been about 8 days, 7 to 8 days. Yeah. So this is huge. It could have prevented up to 85%. So imagine you start to feel your throat, your head, temperature. Okay, let's go to the turmeric, the cayenne, the ginger, the garlic. Let's start doing some hydrotherapy. Let's do some hot and cold alternating showers or foot bath. Let's go out for a walk. Open the window. Give me some water. I need to drink. You start bombarding your body with these things, and that will help. Whether it is a cold or flu or COVID, it will minimize how long you suffer for. It will minimize how long you are prone to be infectious. So the doctor says, listen, these natural things work, especially if you get it early. If you get it early, you will recover very quickly and you won't need hospitalization. And you won't be as infectious as if you kind of incubate it, don't do anything, and then wait till you need oxygen, at which point it's taking over, it's taking control of the body. So one thing I must stress as well, let's not play with COVID. Once you get any symptoms of cold and flu, just blast your body. Be really strong about it. And your body will respond strongly against COVID. The world's plan is a vaccine. Before the world had a vaccine, it was God's plan. It was boost your immune system, eat well, get outside. Now it's all about vaccine. Okay, I'm sure there are lots of wonderful ideas as to why. Because people are dying. Not everybody's listening to God's plan. Not everybody knows about God's plan. Not everybody wants to do God's plan. So if that is the case, if that is your choice, and it is a choice, then you go to the world solution, because the world seems to have a solution. Let's have a look at that solution. mRNA vaccines. mRNA vaccines are made to trigger an immune response. Now, the usual vaccines, because some people say, well, Sister White took a vaccine. I read somewhere that she took the smallpox vaccine. That is true. We don't know her full. She does talk extensively about medication, and her thoughts on that, inspired and personal. What the vaccine that she got that was for smallpox had a weakened or inactivated smallpox element in it. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I had to have a yellow fever vaccination to go somewhere. I had to have it. There was a little bit of yellow fever in that vaccine. So the idea was that you are going to have the effects of yellow fever soon after you've had the vaccine. I took some charcoal, I took some cayenne, what else did I put in there? I took some turmeric. Before and after, we didn't get any reaction, but I had the vaccine. Yeah. So the problem here isn't that you must be against medical science or you must be against vaccine, but just let's look at the information that we have so that we can make a better informed choice. So the usual vaccines have a weakened or inactivated germ put into the vaccine and into the body. We're not even going to talk about the other ingredients right now. But mRNA vaccines are a new type of vaccines. So these are not the types of vaccines that Sister White would have gotten in those days, and which I got with my yellow fever. They are supposed to teach our cells how to make a protein, or even just a piece of a protein. That protein triggers an immune response inside the body. So now you are telling the body what to do to make this protein that will trigger an immune response inside the body. So ribonucleic acid, that's where you get RNA from. Cells use messenger RNA to convey genetic information. Ribosomes interpret the message and produce the proteins. RNA also carries the genetic instruction for many viruses. RNA is the biomolecule that connects DNA and proteins. DNA and RNA work together to make up nucleic acids, considered crucial for life. I hope this is not complex for you. This can be so complicated. mRNA, RNA, what are you talking about? DNA, all these acronyms. But it's as simple as that. And so DNA and RNA work together to make up nucleic acids considered crucial for life. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. Of course, we know this is talking about marriage, but this is also talking about what, you see, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And nothing is that concerns our body is by accident. Our appendix are not extra. They are part of our immune system. Your tonsils are part of your immune system. Every single element that is concerned with your body has a part to play. So if we're finding all these implications with the world solution, where can the real solution be found? Because the world says, listen, look, the numbers are going down. We are doing well. It's good. We just need everyone to get on board. Okay. Before you get on board, just consider the information. Pray, because our allegiance, it is God who made us. He says it is God who made us, not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. He says, in all things, with prayer and thanksgiving, make your supplications known to me, and I will lead you. He says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way in which you shall go. I will guide you with my eye. And so ultimately, we need to take these things before the Lord. But is there a solution? Does God have a plan even within my own system? There are 4 areas of attention. Attack early. We've established that already. Don't sit and say, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I don't feel good. And it may be that you don't feel good. But something needs to be done. Otherwise, the virus will take over. Strengthen your innate immunity. Work on your acquired immunity. Focus on those who are at highest risk. So these areas need attention. Our most important attack against COVID-19 is our own internal ministry of defense, our own immune system. The main parts of the immune system are the white blood cells, the antibodies, the complement systems, the lymphatic system, the spleen, the bone marrow, the thymus. These are all involved in our immune system. The immune system's main job is to identify foreign invaders before harm is done to the body. So identify foreign invaders and attack. So that's what the immune system does. COVID virus comes in and the immune system's like, what? There's an enemy in the camp, get it out. And they mount a temperature. They increase the temperature to boil it out. And which makes you feel awful, but actually it's a good response. There's a lady I know who has long COVID who came to visit us, and she said, I hardly had any symptoms initially. I didn't have a temperature. Her body really responded very slowly. Her innate immune system responded very slowly, and that means that everything else has taken long to overcome. Disease-causing organisms such as bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites are detected on entry, tagged, and then terminated and devoured. So this is the whole point of your immune system that God has put in you. Amazing. It's at the center of every single cell is your DNA. And it's like the handprint, the handwriting of God in every single cell. Isn't that amazing? God is so specific, so unique, so particular. Every single cell. And so you are fearfully and wonderfully made. So God has already put everything in you with His help to be able to fight. But life and how we live life corrupts this ability of the immune system to fight. And that's when the problem comes. A Lancet study of 2020 shows that those who have been exposed to COVID-19 has 84% acquired immune protection up to 7 months. So those who have had COVID and have recovered have 84% of them have acquired immunity for up to 7 months. Antiviral research done on people who had SARS and MERS showed that the acquired immune system still remembers these coronaviruses 12 years after it was contracted. So it looks like the immune system really is where the answer lies. And it's interesting. We have been having this war on cancer since the 1960s, I believe. When Nixon actually coined the term, the war on cancer. We've been fighting this war for so long, and still no answer. So before, I remember there was a time when it was like 1 in 10 will get cancer. Now it's 1 in 2. So the fight, really, the war is not being won. That's because we're looking at the wrong place to fight. We're looking at the wrong arsenal, the wrong swords, the wrong bombs, the wrong weapons to fight this war on cancer. Could it be that we're doing a similar thing now? So you said my immune system has a good answer to help me fight any disease, to help me fight any infection, okay? But my immune system is weak. Why? What weakens the immune system? Smoking, lack of exercise, badly ventilated rooms, pollution, poor hygiene, lack of sleep, meat and dairy products, sugar, alcohol, negative emotions. This is just listing a few things. All of these suppress immune function. So if you are experiencing all of these, your immune system will be weak. Therefore, if you are exposed now to a virus of any kind, you don't have the necessary army. Your army is not strong enough to fight it, or your army is weaker to fight it, in which case it takes longer. These are some of the things that weaken the immune system. At this time, in this climate, we cannot afford to weaken our immune system. One of those negative emotions that is listed there is fear. And the question was asked yesterday, how do you deal with the anxiety that surrounds this virus? Fear literally takes your breath away. And I gave an example of being scared, unawares, someone says boo around the corner and you jump. The jump though includes an intake of breath. And you stop breathing for a moment. And then you're like, oh wow. And then you start breathing again. Fear literally takes your breath away. Fear and stress are survival mechanisms that are activated at a threat or a supposed threat. Hormones are released to respond to the threat, which makes you fight or flee. This is essential for survival when the threat is real. When the threat is a virus, your body has to fight. Okay? If the threat is actually a virus, but you are living in fear, though your body wants to fight the virus, the fear stops it. Because fear releases hormones that stops immunity. To be able to fight or flee, the body's suppress functions that are unnecessary, like the immune system. Because now it needs to focus on helping you to run as fast as you can or use your muscles to fight as hard as you can. In those emergencies, you don't need immunity. So when you're always afraid and anxious, you are actually indirectly suppressing your immune system. So the very thing that you fear, you end up getting. When we are fearful or stressed constantly, our immune systems are constantly suppressed and our blood pressure constantly elevated. This makes us more susceptible to serious illness. So, last year was terrible, and this year for India is terrible. But the fear alone will make you susceptible to COVID. And then there's a staying at home. That means you're not getting enough sunlight. And if you don't know to be supplementing, you get deficient. We need to open our windows. Most of us don't open windows. I don't know how it's like in India. Being fearful of COVID-19 makes us more susceptible. Knowing what to do, however, and trusting in God to bless our little efforts will give us healing peace. Knowing what to do empowers you. And so the fear is lessened, isn't it? When you know that, right, if I should get COVID, I don't have to die. Because that's the thought. The thought is, oh my goodness, it's taken so many lives. That means if I get it, I'm going to die. It doesn't have to be like that. If you know what to do, if you get it, there are many things you can just kick straight into action and do. And by His grace, you will recover. Isaiah 26 verse 3, thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusted in thee. So one of the ways to overcome anxiety surrounding COVID is to trust in God. Trust Him implicitly, whether in life or in death. And so it comes a problem, because if we have fear of death, then we need to go Again, to the source. What is death? It's a sleep. The only fear of death is that I die outside of Christ. If I die in Christ, I will live forever when He shall wake me up. But I don't want to die. You don't have to die. COVID is a serious virus. But if we know what to do, and if we can share that information, more lives will be spared, especially as we trust in God to give us that peace. Of course, because COVID affects the lungs, which is a vital organ, it is often necessary to make sure that your oxygen levels are at optimal levels. What do? Oxygen is the most important need of our cells. In fact, oxygen is the number one need of our cells. There are 5 top needs of every one of us, our cells. The first one is oxygen. The second one is water. The third one is nutrients. The fourth one is waste elimination. Our bowels must move every day. The fifth one is freedom from toxins. That's like toxic chemicals, pollution, those things that we eat that are toxic, So these are the top 5 needs of the cell. Number 1 is oxygen. It's important that we get out or we open our windows and spend time outside if we can. It is important for us to drink water. Why? Because in order to oxygenate and expel carbon dioxide, our lungs need to be hydrated. Drinking enough water, therefore, influences oxygen levels. It's important to keep in mind that caffeinated beverages, alcohol, and high sodium foods all take water away from the body. So if you're indulging in these things, pray to God to give you strength to reduce with the view of stopping altogether. Iron-rich foods is wonderful and is needed for our blood cells, the cells that transport blood around the body. That is why we can be tired and exhausted if we lack iron, because the cells are not picking up those iron stores and circulating them around the body. Great sources of iron-rich foods are green leafy vegetables, broccoli, apples, legumes. You have your beans, your lentils. These are wonderful sources from where we can get our iron. What else can I do? Exercise. There's a clear correlation between performance or exercise and the amount of oxygen we breathe in. Interval and sprint training are the best training methods to increase oxygen level. But you saying, I can't do that. Okay, let's walk. Let's start walking. Let's start maybe getting a bouncer and bounce. Let's start doing some simple stretches every day, even just once. These are all very important for your oxygen levels and for your overall health. Train your breathing, and we're going to be showing you deep breathing exercises shortly. Breathe in slow through the nose, because it goes through a filtration system and it goes to the lungs in a way that breathing through the mouth doesn't. So breathe through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathe deep and slowly. Oxygen is transported to the blood within the body through the respiratory system, and that is why it influences your oxygen level if your breathing is not optimal. 90% of our energy comes from oxygen. Did you know that? So 90% of our energy comes from oxygen. So poor breathing habits gives us less oxygen. And then on top of that, you have COVID that restricts your oxygen level. That's why then people desperate, then you need oxygen. But if you can now train your body and your lungs to breathe well, it won't be such a desperate need because now your body is well oxygenated. Did you know that disease will stay very in a body that is well oxygenated? It's amazing how simple it is, but it becomes even more amazing when you understand the science behind it. I mean, because in church we say fresh air, and we're like, yeah, I breathe already. I'm fine. I'm alive, aren't I? But knowing how to breathe, most of us breathe from our chest, and then, so when you see your shoulders going up and down, you're breathing from your chest. But you're supposed to breathe from down here, your diaphragm. In fact, I'm going to pause right now with this, and we're going to look very quickly at the best ways to breathe for optimal oxygen accumulation.
Okay, we're going to come out of here so that you can see properly. Let's see. Okay, so we want to show you quickly how to do deep breathing exercises. Now, what is very important is that we wear loose clothing that allow our lungs to inflate properly and to that we're comfortable as well and not start to feel constricted. So all our organs need space. We wear tight clothes or tight belts or bands. This can become problematic. So my belt, very loose, and there's a lot of space for my belly to come out, because that is what happens when we breathe properly. When we breathe in, our belly should go out, and when we breathe out, our belly should go in. As Jackie was saying, usually when we breathe in, we bring our shoulders up, and this doesn't allow the lungs to inflate. It gives a little bit more space at the top, but most space the lungs need here at the bottom. So we breathe in, the belly goes out, and the lungs get more space when we breathe back out. And Danielle's just going to show you how that works.
Okay, so when you blow air into a balloon, it gets bigger. And that's how our belly should be when we breathe in. And when we breathe out and release the air, it gets smaller. So breathe in and out.
Excellent, thank you. So if we can try to do that right now, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Another thing that's very important when we breathe, or at all times, is that we have a good posture. This also allows for proper breathing. So we sit up straight or we stand up straight and we breathe like so. And as Jackie was saying, we breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And do that again. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And this is good to do, especially in the morning or after a monsoon rain, when the air is nice and fresh, and especially also when we're outside in nature. This is where the air is freshest, and it's good to do this on a daily basis, to just spend some time to just breathe. And you can do these kind of exercises 3 or 4 times. So this one was a simple one. You just breathe in and breathe back out, in through the nose and out through the mouth. But another thing that we can do, which really allows for waste to be pushed out of the lungs, is where we breathe in and we hold for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we push the air out like this. And it looks very unladylike, and you might feel a bit self-conscious about it, but it is really, really helpful. It really helps a lot of waste to come out. And usually when we breathe normally, not all the waste gets pushed out of the lungs. And so there's a residue which can cause disease. So again, you do that about 3 to 4 times. So I'll show you again. So we breathe in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? And for many people that we do this with, even when they don't realize they have problems with their lungs, they will start to they will start to cough, or they will start to feel like phlegm is coming up and feel the need to get rid of that and spit it out in a place where that is not causing hygiene problems. So that is something we can do. Another exercise that we can do that really helps to open the lungs is to breathe in while we bring the arm up, and then breathe out. And do that again. Breathe in and breathe out. I can see some people doing that. Excellent. And then you do the other arm, and out and in and out, and you do that about 3 to 4 times on both sides, and then you do about 3 to 4 times with both arms. And out and in and out. And you can actually feel that as you do that, your lungs get more space for oxygen to come in, and as you bring your arm down, your lungs, literally like the balloon, shrink to push all the waste out. So that is your proper way to breathe, and those are some breathing exercises that can help whether you have COVID or whether you want to just prepare or cleanse your lungs on a day-to-day basis.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much, ladies. I hope you have your questions ready. We're nearly finished with the presentation. We just thought we'll pause, and this is a good time also for a little break, to get up and stretch a little bit. I hope you're doing that, and I hope also you are drinking. Okay, I'm just gonna try and get this out of the way. That's one more. Cute. And play my video. Okay. So we have looked at ways of increasing oxygen levels and ways of opening our lungs. Really, if you do the one way you breathe in and then you breathe out very hard, if you do that every day, you literally feel your lungs stretching open. It's fantastic, and you find you can sing longer and hold your breath longer as well. Don't just hold it for 5 seconds. If after 5 seconds you can hold it for 10 seconds, and then hold it and then breathe out. Each time you expel more and more and more. So we've looked at the proper way of breathing, filling your lungs with oxygen, breathing in from the diaphragm, and then expelling the waste properly. So when you breathe in, your stomach should expand. Okay? It shouldn't go flat. It takes a little practice to get that right, because we are all so used to breathing the other way. So you just have to practice filling up like a balloon, and letting the air out, the tummy goes flat. We're going to be looking now at a hot and cold foot bath. 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold. 3 times you end with cold, and we're going to do that in a moment. So this one is a hot and cold foot bath, and we're going to show you that in the next couple of minutes. Yeah, hot and cold foot baths. This is fantastic. So today, the lady that called me, I just told her to do a hot foot bath because it was easier for her. She was a bit weak. She felt a bit tired. So I said, okay, do a hot foot bath. And because also she felt she still had the temperature, I said, do a hot foot bath. Keep the cold flannel on your head, please. Keep the cold flannel on your head, and put your feet in hot water. What is that good for? Well, now the body's going to pull the congestion up top to the feet, and the cold, so the hot pulls the blood and the cold resists the blood. That's why when you have a sprain, you put cold to avoid a serious amount of blood flowing to the area to heal it. But if too much flows to that place at the same time, you're going to get a lot of inflammation and a lot of swelling. And that means that the healing process takes longer. So we want to deter the amount of blood here and pull the congestion to the feet with hot. So that's what we're going to show you shortly. In fact, we'll show that to you now so that you can go little by little. Okay, so I'm going to stop share again and instead show you the hot foot bath or the hot and cold.
Okay, I'm going to show you my feet. Yeah, they are more important at this time. Okay, so we have two bowls. One is for hot water, one is for cold water. I'm just going to show you. You can see that there's no actual water in here, but let's say that there is. A hot foot bath just means as hot as my feet can stand it. I put my feet in there, and if I have some Epsom salt, which is rich in magnesium, I would add about a cup in there, and I just enjoy that. Every now and then, when I feel that the water has cooled down, I make sure that I have some hot water and I add some, making sure that I don't scald my feet. Now, this is something that you could actually do for yourself, and if necessary, you could do it for someone else, which can be a blessing. You can see I have a flannel here, which I might put on my forehead with cold water, not with hot water, but with cold water. And this helps push the blood away from the head and toward the feet. And the blood is being drawn to the feet as well, because the feet are in hot water. And this helps especially when you have a headache or when you have a fever. And this helps to keep your head cool. Fevers are not bad. Fevers are good because it helps burn up the virus. But the head does not like to be hot. So when you do have a temperature, or when a child has a temperature, keep their head cool by just using a face cloth that you have put in cold water. Water tends to hold on to temperature longer than anything else, and so this helps keep the head cool. And keep changing that face towel. Please keep rinsing it out and putting new cold water on it so that the head can be kept cool. Now let's say I'm doing the hot foot bath. I can just sit here for about 20 to 30 minutes as I enjoy it, and just and so whenever I need to, I can just add some hot water to keep it hot. And like I said, you keep it as you can stand it. Now for someone who has diabetes, you might want to be a bit more careful with the temperature and make sure that the temperature is around 38 degrees. They might not be able to tell you that the water is too hot. So if you say, we're just making it as hot as you can stand it, or if you have the condition yourself, you might not want to do that. Then you check the temperature, because otherwise you might scald your feet, as some people with diabetic neuropathy might not be able to tell you that the water is too hot because of nerve damage. They might not be able to feel it. Okay, now let's say I'm doing a hot and cold foot bath. So my feet, I start off the same with my feet in hot water, and I'm staying here for about 3 minutes, enjoying the hot. And then after the 3 minutes, I move my feet to the cold water, which is actually really cold. and I stay in there for 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, and I might scream or I might sing a song because it's really cold and I have to express myself in some way. After the 30 seconds, I go back into the hot water. And in the meantime, maybe I've checked that the water needs to be topped up a little bit. The cold will stay cold, generally. So I stay in here for another 3 minutes. So what this does, because blood likes to be where it's hot, so the hot water will draw blood to my feet, and the cold water will push the blood away from my feet. And because my feet are furthest away from the heart, my whole circulation is affected by this therapy. And so this therapy really helps to increase circulation and is therefore good for all kinds of conditions, including high blood pressure, including varicose veins, especially also. And what happens also when circulation is increased, more blood cells will be created. And the more blood cells are created, including white blood cells, the stronger your immune system gets. So it's an immune strengthening therapy as well. Now, after 3 minutes, I go back in the cold for another 30 seconds. So you only have to remember the number 3, really. 3 minutes in the hot, 30 seconds in the cold. After the 30 seconds in the cold, and you do that 3 times. So I've done it twice now. You do it one more time, 3 minutes in here, 30 seconds in here, and then you come out. And you dry your feet. And you might want to put some oil on the feet, or you might decide, you know what, I'm going to put the onion that Sister Jacqueline shared yesterday on my feet to help again draw out some toxins from the feet and to help the body to fight. So that is the hot and cold foot bath. Are there any questions about? There's a question there. How cold should the cold water be? As cold as you can get it, really. Not that it should be frozen, but it can be as cold as you can get it. Now here for us, when we open the tap, our water comes from the Scottish grounds, and so therefore it is cold, very cold already. But where you are, you might want to put some ice in there. You will want to put some ice in there so that it is very cold. So that's how cold the cold should be. Cold water feels around, I think, 12 to 15 degrees or 15 to 20 degrees is cold to the touch. Anything colder than that really becomes freezing, and that's not necessary. Okay, we're going to show you one more thing here. Okay, let me show the screen. Share it.
Okay, I hope that was helpful to you. I'm going to show you, yesterday we introduced you to the power of onions. The sulfur in the onions, the quercetin in the onions, whether it's brown or red, either one is very, very good. So we're going to make an onion syrup. I promised you children love this. I'm going to come a bit closer. Very simple medicine here. Simple and natural. I'm just cutting this onion. And I'm going to cut it so that it can fit into my jar. I have here a small jar. You can have a bigger jar if you want to make a bigger amount. And I'm simply going to cut the onions. Now remember yesterday we talked about the many ways you can use onions. You can use it to just around your room like this so that it can absorb all the toxins in the atmosphere, but also next to your bed so that you can breathe it in as you sleep, and it draws out also if you have congestion, it will draw it out. It's very, very potent. So that's one way to use onion. We also showed you, and I'll show you again, another way to use it, which is like a poultice. But this is another way. This is really good for children as a cough syrup, but for everyone. You have 1 layer of onion, and I'm going to put a layer of honey, a teaspoon of honey right here on top of the onions in the jar. Okay? And then I'm going to put another layer of onions. So you need to make this ahead of time if someone isn't well, because it takes about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours for the honey to draw out all the nutrients from the onions, and it becomes like a syrup. And you can give this a tablespoon every hour or a tablespoon every half an hour, and it really, really helps. And children can also eat the onions with their dinner when the juice, the syrup, is finished. So you would keep doing this until there's no more onions. You finish off with a layer of honey. Try and get raw honey. I don't know how easy it is to get raw honey in India, or honey as raw as possible. And you leave it there for about 4 to 5 hours. And what happens is that this becomes like a liquid. It increases and becomes a nice syrup for your cough or for your cold. Okay? And another way you can use onion, we showed you yesterday, it's really effective, is using it as a poultice. If someone has a cold or flu, it is very, very effective. You use at the bottom of the feet. Okay, so Danielle is going to, I'm going to come over here. Okay, and you have her feet here, and I'm going to put the onion at the bottom of her feet. And then I'm going to, well, in this case, she wants me to put her socks on. You just put the socks on. But you might not want to wear socks. And so you might want to just tie it with a bandage or tie it with a scarf. Or if you have cling film, keep it in place with cling film. If it will stay. My one is just falling off. Perhaps prepare the cling film in advance so that you can have both hands to do what you need to do. Okay, as you can see, you don't have to be proficient at it for it to work, because I'm not doing a very good job right now. And here you have your onion poultice. You can do the same on the chest as well, to draw away inflammation, to draw away fluid, and to help the lungs to function better. Okay, wonderful. Okay, these are all remedies that are so beneficial and that have been proven to work very, very effectively. So we're just coming to the end of our presentation. Here is the remedy that I've just done with the onion syrup for congestion, for coughs, for breaking down of any mucus as well. Of course, you can also use honey and eucalyptus. This is also very effective. Saltwater gargles are perfect for sore throats. Use Himalayan salt as it contains less toxins and more minerals. So, gargling with salt is also very good. So we've come through many, many things. I'm sorry if maybe it was too much information. We're trying to give you a lot so that you lack nothing. You have information about what COVID is, how to combat it using God's plan. You have also another option which man has created and say it's a possible solution. We've looked at the logic behind it. We've also looked at the possible negative effects of it. And we've looked at, again, more of God's methods of strengthening your body by strengthening your immune system to be ready to fight any disease, any bacteria, any virus by the grace of God. And then trust in Him. After you have done what you know to do, trust in Him to do the rest and being at peace. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. So our battle is not, our warfare is not about flesh and blood. And we know that we have been given much, and to whom much is given, much is required. Let us take God at His word and do all that we know to do, and let Him do the rest by His grace. And so ends our presentation today, focusing on COVID and what can we do. I pray that it was clear. If you have any questions or any comments, they are more than welcome.
Right. The first one that I can see here is, can high blood pressure patients do this hydrotherapy?
Yes, the hydrotherapy. High blood pressure patients can do the hydrotherapy, absolutely. It's actually very effective for them, keeping the head cool when you're doing this. But with the hot and cold, this is very good, because oftentimes with those with high blood pressure, circulation is very poor. So doing the hot and cold, this demands that the hot pulls the water, the blood, the cold makes the blood flow away, the hot pulls the blood, the cold makes the water flow. So you get this circulation of the blood by using the water. Yeah.
Right. So I think the one question that follows from there on is, can we use ginger with it? Onion, ginger, and honey.
Oh, you mean in the hot water or in the onion poultice? In the onion syrup?
I think it would be poultice, wouldn't it? Because you can't put in the water. Am I right?
Well, some people do actually. Some people put ginger and garlic also in a hot foot bath to make it even hotter. I don't think that's necessary, because some people have different reactions to some things. So I think because we deal with so many different people, we like to just keep it simple, just leave just the water, because you don't want to have make people have adverse reactions. But also with the, if you can give me the syrup, the onion syrup, you can add ginger also, and you can put garlic in there as well to make it, multifunctional. Yeah.
So in regards to that, I think the question is, how long do we keep the onion?
Okay, you leave it like this for about 4 to 5 hours, and you'll see that the liquid is started to increase already. The liquid will increase because it's drawing out all the goodness from the onions. And then you can keep this about 3 to 5 days. And when the liquid is all finished, you just eat the onion. So maybe on the 5th day, you can eat it. But if you want to, if it finishes the same day, you can just eat the onion the same day. You can't overdose on this, and it won't be bad for you to overdose. It will actually help you very much.
Excellent. So some of us Indians, we love onions, so that'll be a good one there.
Yes.
So basically, the question is, normally we inhale and exhale through our nose. So what's your suggestion with normal breathing? I think it's got
Yes.
the breathing exercise that you mentioned here.
Yes, I think when you are breathing normally, it's important to inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. That's correct. When we're doing this exercise, we are exaggerating a lot of the actions. And also when you breathe out through the mouth, it just makes it more, you are forcing the lungs open, and you are forcing carbon dioxide to come out. Because remember, the lungs are quite long, And most of the time, because we only breathe on the upper chambers of the lungs, we are getting rid of only a portion of carbon dioxide. But when you force the lungs to open to exhale very hard, when you exhale very hard, it's very hard to keep your mouth closed. So when you breathe in and then you breathe out, you can do, but that's very hard to get sufficient carbon dioxide. But when you open like this, and that sound is from the lungs. And if you have lungs that are have a lot of mucus, you can't do the for very long without coughing. And the coughing is a good sign. It means that the lungs want to get rid of something. And the more you do it, the more you get rid, and the more the lungs open. So you are clearing it out, you're cleaning it up.
Great, thank you. The next question here is, you mentioned that COVID vaccine may cause toxins that spread to ovaries in women. Will this cause infertility in women or reduce their ability to conceive?
Well, according to the information that is available, that have been given out by the science community, initially they were saying that women of childbearing age should not take it because they feared that it could make them infertile or that it could affect their ability to conceive. And now it seems they're saying, well, the benefits outweigh the possible negatives. So they are opening it out to everybody. But if there is any reasonable doubt that it can make me infertile if I don't already have children, or that it can reduce my ability to conceive, both of those are concerning. So you have to consider both of those situations if you choose to have the vaccine.
What's the likely effect of COVID vaccine on breastfeeding mothers?
Yes, it can affect the infant. There are actual cases that have come up, which again is available for all to view, of a mother who had the vaccine and breastfed her baby, and the baby was affected negatively. So that, because of whatever we eat, we pass through to the milk. So that is a possibility that can have adverse negative effects on the child that is being breastfed.
What are the effects of holding breath for long periods when in your breathing exercise? So basically, when you inhale, you're holding it for a longer period of time.
Yeah, so when you breathe in, you're holding it in. Now, that is a good exercise, because then when you push it out, because then the urgency to push it out is greater. And then you expel more carbon dioxide and you open the lungs more. So holding it, and also it helps with when you breathe in, you're breathing in more oxygen, because what you're doing is you're like I mentioned, cleaning your lungs. So sometimes you can even hold it for more than 5 seconds. It also helps with improve the amount of oxygen you can breathe in. Some people have hypoxia, which is that the ability to hold oxygen is very low, and you get breathless very easily. And usually it's because we're breathing from the upper, we're breathing from our chest instead of the diaphragm down here. So breathing in, hold. Some people can only hold for 5 seconds. But you see, the more you do it, the more you can hold. That means that you are acquiring more oxygen each time, and stretching out the lungs to give you more volume for oxygen, which is crucial for the blood as well.
Great, thank you. What is the dosage of onion syrup for children and for the adults? Is it separate?
It's not really, because it's natural. It's fine unless you have a very young child. You might give the young child a teaspoon every hour. That's fine. But for older children and adults, once the 3 to 4 hours is over, I might decide I just want the whole thing right now. And I might just decide to drink it. I can. And then for my dinner, I'll have the onions as well. And maybe then I'll do another one and put it aside for tomorrow. And then I'll do another one and put it aside for tomorrow. So you always have one on hand. But for adults and older children, really there isn't any problem with dosing, but you can have maybe a tablespoon every hour. That's good until it's finished. Or if you're getting lots of coughs, you can decide I will only take it when I cough a lot, and so you can do it that way. But you can't overdose. But very young children, it might be very hot for them, so it might not be wise to give them too much at the same time.
I think this question might be a little wider in its answer. How can one sort of reverse diabetes?
Oh wow, that's a
big one.
okay. But it's also very simple. God's plan. And you can ask me, how do you reverse diabetes and how do you reverse high blood pressure? I'll say the same thing. God's plan. So the first thing with diabetes, let's talk about the cause of diabetes. The cause of diabetes is fat. Sugar or sweet things makes it worse. But the real cause of diabetes is fat. It is fat that deactivates the cells from receiving insulin produced by the pancreas. So when we eat insulin, or rather the pancreas produces insulin. What is that for? The insulin is to escort the glucose from the things that we eat into the cell, so that my cell can have energy. When you're hungry, you're like this, and then you eat and the glucose goes into the cell and you're ready for a walk, right? But with diabetes, because the cell doors are clogged with fat, when the pancreas produces insulin to get the glucose into the cell, it can't open the cell door. So then glucose is put into the blood, is put into the kidneys to filter out as urine, or is stored in the liver as glycogen. Okay? So you'll find that if you have diabetes, you have excessive urination, excessive thirst, because the kidneys are always trying to filter the blood, and excessive hunger, because the glucose is not going into the cell to feed the cell. So the cell is not receiving nourishment. So you're always so hungry. So that's the cause of diabetes. So then how did that happen? High fat diet, lots of ghee in the diet, lots of sugar in the diet, lots of white rice in the diet. White rice turns to glucose very quickly. And because it's so nice, we eat more. And then if we eat late as well, big meals very late, that is now going to put you in a bigger category for diabetes. If you are holding your weight here in the body, this makes you very susceptible to diabetes. Why? Because most of your vital organs are here. Your pancreas is here, your liver is here, your spleen is here, and they are negatively affected by it. So it's very important that as we follow God's plan, whether it's in eating or drinking, that we are temperate in all things. What else can we do for diabetes? So start to limit your meat intake. With a hope and a prayer to remove it. If that is difficult for you, okay, let's start with limiting it. Let's have more lentil curries, and let's have more vegetable curries. Let's have more things, and let's not eat too late. And drinking is crucial. To drink in between your meals. Don't drink and eat at the same time. And another very important aspect for diabetes is exercise. 1 hour of exercise, and one of the best things to do after you eat is go for a walk. Even if it's a walk around your home, around your compound, or down the road and back. Or if you have a rebounder, wait for an hour or so and bounce. Why? To walk so that it doesn't get concentrated in the body. And also the body can also help digestion of the food can be quicker. So those are just 3 basic things that you can do. Watch what you're eating, exercise, and water. And I would say if you are not getting outside to expose your vitamin D, it is very, very important. I'm thinking of more and more things. Try not to eat all day. Those who have diabetes, because the glucose is not going into the cell for energy, you feel hungry. But if you eat more fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and beans and lentils, these are all called whole grains. You feel full for longer. So the length of time that you get hungry becomes longer and longer. And especially if you're drinking in between your meals, you find that you are not as hungry anymore. So you can leave 3 to 4 hours from one meal to the next meal. The world talks about intermittent fasting. That is very, very good for diabetes. But God has already built into his plan intermittent fasting. He said eat and then rest 3 to 4 hours, then eat, then rest 3 to 4 hours, then eat, and don't eat anything more until the morning when you break your fast. It's a mini fast. So if we follow that, God has promised to help us to reverse diabetes. And then you have the natural remedies. Sage, fantastic to bring down blood sugar. Green beans, fantastic to bring down blood sugar. Chlorella, that is so very, very good. That's another plant actually that will strengthen your immune system, but it will also bring down blood sugar. So we have wonderful, usually people reverse it in 1 week, but do it gradually. If you're on medication, start gradually. You'll see that you will find you won't even need it anymore.
Sister, you mentioned about sage, green beans, and chlorella. As much as you would consume them, it's also how we make it, isn't it?
Very, very true. Thank you
We
for
want to
that.
kill all nutrients. Yeah.
Yes, that's very good. So sage, you can make sage tea. You can maybe put 2 tablespoons of sage in a pot, and maybe 500 mils of water, and you can simmer for about 5 minutes, and then strain and drink. Another way for chlorella, If you have a juicer, you can juice it. If you don't have a juicer but you have a blender, you can blend it with water, or maybe you might want to blend it with some, let me see, what can you blend chlorella with? Maybe some pineapple. Pineapple has bromelain, which is good for the gastric tract. So you might want to blend it with a little pineapple because it's very strong in taste. And that will help. And you might even add a little bit of ginger in there as well. So you can have that as a drink or a smoothie, or you can sieve it and have it as a lighter juice, or you can put it in your food. But I think the way that it works best if it's raw as possible. So you can blend it or you can juice it, or if you want to, you can eat it if you are able to do that. It's very strong in taste. Cayenne pepper also is very, very good to help with blood sugar. So cayenne pepper, very, very useful.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I want to ask, Mr. Sunil Hembrom has raised his hand. So I think he's got a question. Mr. Sunil, if you want to unmute.
The question I had, that is already answered. I wanted to find out the dose, the amount, onion syrup, how much should I be taking? Then Madam already explained about the amount of syrup, onion syrup, how much to be taken. That was answered very well, and no more question.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sunil. The next question here also is, in terms of the onion therapy, how long does one keep it in the chest and the legs?
Keep it there for about 4 hours. 4 hours in the day. But if a person is going to sleep, you might want to do it and just let them sleep, and then take it away when they wake up. So, but if they're awake and you are able, yeah.
Right. I think, I'm not sure if everybody heard that. Is the network, sister, your network, I think, wasn't the best at that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Could you just...
Okay, I'm sorry about that. No, I was saying keep it for about 4 hours. If the person is awake and active, keep it there for 4 hours, and then after 4 hours you can replace it or you can remove it. Let them rest for a little while and then reapply. Or if the person is going to sleep, then put it there before they go to sleep and let them sleep, and when they wake up you take it off. So if they sleep for 7 hours, it's fine. It can stay there for that amount of time, and then when they wake up you can remove it.
Okay, thank you. We have another question, and this question is from Sister Shelja. It's it's regards to autoimmune disease and inflammation in my joints, ankle and the spine. I'm HLA-B27+. Right. So the question is, I'm completely vegan and have an active lifestyle. What natural treatments can I do? Also, what do I need to avoid or completely remove?
Okay, so if you have any autoimmune disease, it is basically your immune system is overreacting to you. So you are already plant-based. That's fantastic. Praise God for that transition. You also have an active lifestyle. So hydrotherapy would be very good, but be careful with hydrotherapy, because for some people, hydrotherapy, because it increases white blood cell activity, if you have an autoimmunity that is very active, that can actually have an adverse effect. So for example, we had someone who had lupus, which is an autoimmune disease. Normally we would do, one of the therapies we would do with our guests is a fever bath. But I could not do a fever bath on her because I knew that her immune system will be stimulated, but it would not be stimulated to help her. It would cause inflammation. So then I just did a nice hot bath, but with lots of Epsom salt. Epsom salt is fantastic for relaxing muscles, for easing joints, and for extracting, also cleansing from the skin. So that's one therapy. Again, I would usually suggest the hot and cold, but again, you don't want your immune system to overreact. So maybe you don't do hot, you do warm, and then you do lukewarm. So whatever we're doing, every one of them will be beneficial, but you don't do extremes, because otherwise then your immune system will be extreme. Another thing is maybe applications to the areas of pain, warm application to the areas of pain. Massage therapy would be very good. Using oil such as castor oil or almond oil. You put in there some wonderful natural essential oils that are good for circulation, like peppermint. Another one that is very good for healing is frankincense. Very, very good for healing. For pain, you might put in that same concoction wintergreen oil, or if you can't get your hand on wintergreen, you can try eucalyptus oil. And then for calming, you can try lavender. So you have maybe 2 cups or a cup of the almond oil or the castor oil, and you have maybe let's say 4 drops each of these, and then you apply it to the necessary areas for relief, and that would be very helpful. Another thing that I may suggest going forward is to do a cleanse. With every single condition, whether it's diabetes or high blood pressure or even autoimmunity, the first protocol that we attempt to do is to cleanse. Cleanse all 5 channels of elimination. Different people demand different types of cleanses for different length of time. Someone who's very weak and fragile, we might do a partial cleanse, meaning that we'll give the necessary herbs, but perhaps we'll give them raw food instead of doing just juice. So perhaps I can send some information on different ways that you can do a gentle cleanse, which will help a lot with pain. But the main focus with autoimmunity is boost the immune system in a gentle way. So as well as the therapies, you want immune building plants, immune building vitamins. Vitamin D is crucial. Echinacea, anything, astragalus, all of these build the immune system.
Sister
Yes.
Sister Jacqueline, thank you so much for the advice that you have given. I just wanted to check, how can I increase my vitamin B12 since I'm completely vegan? I don't eat egg or meat or any milk products. How can I increase my B12?
Okay, there are several ways to increase your B12. Thank you so much for your question, and praise God for the things that you are doing already to reverse this condition, and it can be reversed. One way, when we go to sleep, B12 is actually a bacteria, and it's a bacteria that it's also produced by the colon. And when we sleep, the fact that we're lying down for so long, that B12 actually collects in the mouth. There is a direct correlation between B12 actually can collect in the mouth. First thing in the morning, drink some water. I used to not be able to do this because I used to want to brush my teeth first. And when I heard that actually first thing in the morning, we all have some amount of B12 in the mouth, that's why I pray, is to drink water. So that's one way. And then another thing I do love to do is I like to sprout seeds. Like moon dal, I like to sprout moon because it's very, very nutritious. What are you talking about sprouting? Sprouting is when you take the seed and you put it in water. And then after one day, you get rid of the water. And you leave it on the counter. And then every day you rinse with water and you take the water out and you leave it. And the seeds start to sprout. And when they sprout like that, they contain a lot of nutrients. But because they are also contained in this container, though you are making sure it is clean and you're rinsing it often so it doesn't go rotten, but it still collects some amount of bacteria, which is B12. So some people even say sauerkraut, but that is left there for too long. But sprouting is very, very helpful to help maintain B12. There are other things. Alfalfa sprouts especially are good for B12. And then if on top of that you're still too low, or if already you are very low, you might want to supplement with a good B12 supplementation to lift you up, and then you can maintain with food. And the best B12 supplementation is methylcobalamin that we have come across anyway. Methylcobalamin. This one is most effectively absorbed. I'm going to send it to everyone. Methylcobalamin. So I hope that answers your question, sister. God bless you.
Thank you, sister. Just wanted to check one more thing. This flaxseed, does it have B12? I've heard about it, but I'm not too sure.
Flaxseed is fantastic, and it has many things. It's anti-inflammatory. That can be one of your new best friends, actually. It's very, very good. But it doesn't have B12. It does have omega-3 fatty acids, which we find in fish. So when you don't eat fish anymore, it's crucial that you have something with omega-3 fatty acids, because omega-3 fatty acid is an essential fatty acid. That means the body doesn't make it. You have to put it in. So when we stop eating fish, it's crucial that we look for alternative means of omega-3. And flaxseed is one of those. Chia seeds also. Walnuts, another source. So having these will really help to maintain your omega-3. In order to release the omega-3 fatty acid in flaxseed, we have to blend it, grind it into powder. When it's whole, when you have the linseed, little brown seeds or golden seeds, it's very good for cleansing if you sprinkle it on your food. But if you want to release the omega-3 fatty acid, you have to grind it. And then you put it in a jar like this, and you put it in the fridge. Because it's ground, it produces oil. And if oil is not kept cool, it'll go rancid. So you try to use the ground up version within about 3 to 5 days. And then grind some more and keep doing that. You can sprinkle it on anything you like.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you.
Praise God.
But before I go to the next question, how much time have we got, sister? And really, because got a
perhaps I'll be with you till 4 o'clock my time. I'm not sure what time it will be in India.
4 o'clock, yes, right. 4 o'clock for us. Okay, so yeah, let's carry on. So that, which means about how much time from, that's another half an hour, yeah?
Yeah, about 20.
Another 30 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
That's sizable time. Okay, the question has come, with the onion therapy, do we only implement it when you're sick, or can it be used as a prevention? And secondly is, can it help to tackle dust allergy, asthma?
Okay. You can use this anytime. With all the therapies, they are prevention as well as cure, as well as helping your body to fend for itself when it's sick. But there's a quote that says prevention is better than cure. So definitely fortifying your body is very good. I think personally, we don't do this unless it's needed. Because we use a lot of onions in our cooking. Sometimes we may put onions in our salad. So we have a lot of onions already. And then this is just another way of having it when someone is not well. But if you want to do this, if you are well, you can do it. No harm will be done, but it will strengthen your immune system. So that is very good. Can it help with dust allergy? Okay, so we need to find the cause of the allergy. If the cause of the allergy is dust, we need to get rid of the dust. But remember that whether it's dust allergy or pollen allergy or any other type of allergy, the main problem is that the immune system is overreacting. If it was the dust, then everyone should have a dust allergy. If it was the pollen, then everyone should have a pollen allergy. But only some people are affected. That's because my son, Levi, was like this. He would, in this time of the year, his eyes would be like this. His throat would be itching. His nose would be streaming. And he would have a very bad cough that it would just, sometimes he couldn't breathe very well. And that's because he breathes in the pollen, and the immune system sees the pollen particles and thinks it's an enemy. So it releases histamine. The histamine is trying to get the substances out of the body. But it's not harmful. So the histamine produces the itching, the swelling. The histamine produces the accumulation of mucus in the lungs. I noticed something yesterday as we were driving home. He was wheezing, and I said, "Why are you wheezing?" And he's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "What did you just do?" He's like, "I had a smoothie, and he had a smoothie before, and then he had something else." And I said, "Does that have sugar in it?" And he said, "Yes." So I've seen that sugar triggers his histamine response because he no longer has allergies, but certain things trigger him, and immediately his lungs starts to fill with mucus. So after a while, I say, wait for a little while and then drink water. And he did, and it's okay now. But if you are having a lot of sugar and you have any issues with your, it will give you issues with immunity. So autoimmunity or allergies, which is a type of autoimmune, it's about the immune system overreacting to something that is not harmful. So now we have to train the immune system to stop doing that. How do you do that? Take away everything that triggers the immune system in a negative way. That is dairy products. That is sugary things. That is overly salty things. But don't remove salt. Replace salt with Himalayan salt or salt that is wet and looks gray. This is proper salt. And don't use too much. What else can be done? Everything that would trigger a bad immunity, remove as much as possible. Drink lots of water because that keeps the mucous membrane fluid. Otherwise, the mucous membrane actually constricts, and the blood vessels constrict, the airways constrict if we are dehydrated. And then you have the natural remedies to help your body to start to function properly. Vitamin C you can find in amla. You can start having more moringa. You can have nettle. I don't know if you have nettle in India. You have nettle in India? Nettle is the natural antihistamine. It's very, very powerful. You can boil it and drink. And I used to get cotton wool or tissue, and I used to dip it into the boiled water. When it cools down, I used to put it on his eyes. And then very soon you see the eyes will start to shrink, before they were swollen. So having nettle tea really, really helps. Nettle tea also has iron in there, and it has very good antihistamine properties. So these are just some things that you can do to help the body to respond properly. Zinc also is very good for immune system. So this is what I did for him. Also garlic. He had lots of garlic. And thyme. Sometimes he said, "Mommy, I think it's time for tea." That means he wanted thyme tea because maybe his throat was itching. And I'll give him, I'll boil thyme in a similar way I would boil sage, and he would drink it. What else did I do? One more thing. When he was really bad with these kind of allergies, at night he struggled. He would cough and cough and cough, and sometimes he'll throw up. And what I would do the fomentation. Remember the fomentation? I get a small face cloth, and I'll put it in hot water with eucalyptus, and then I'll put it on his chest, and then I'll cover with another big towel, a dry one. And then I'll do the same for his back, maybe 4 or 5 times. And then I will rub his back and his chest with, usually it was almond oil and eucalyptus. And I will put it there, and I'll put it on his back. And then he will be quiet, and he'll go to sleep. So that is really helpful for allergies as well.
Yeah, I've got one more question here. How can we control anxiety?
Trust in God. Trusting in God is key. See, God's plan begins with godly trust. It begins with godly trust because without God, we can do nothing. We can't even drink the right amount of water or even eat the right kinds of foods. We can't obey the law without the power from God. So anxiety is usually a reaction to a real threat or a perceived threat. We have had many calls, many people with a perceived threat of getting COVID. They are so afraid they won't go outside of their homes. There was a young man even who was at uni, and when they were so afraid of COVID, they locked themselves in their dormitory. They locked themselves in their place, and they wouldn't come out. The mother had to go and get her son to go home. When he went home, he locked himself in the bedroom. He was so afraid of coming into contact with other people that it filled him with so much fear. So that was a perceived threat. But COVID-19 is very real. So that was his fear. Having trust in God to know, you know what, whether I get COVID-19 or not, God is able to keep me. Knowing what to do. If I get COVID-19, I can do this, I can do that. I can call this person and they can help me. Because sometimes when you are in the situation, everything goes out of your mind. You don't remember anything. And so have a person that you can call at that time to remind you of the love of God. To remind you, remember, hey, drink some water. Let's do this. Remember to get some onions. Put it by your bed. Just someone to help. So it's always important. Or even someone to express to them why you feel so anxious. Sometimes when you say why you feel anxious, you think, well, why am I anxious about that? When you hear it in your own ears, it sounds like, oh, and then you can get to the root. It's important to get to the root cause of anxiety, whether it's real or perceived. And then, so God is first. And then someone that you trust, that you can talk to, and that you can go to if you need reminding. And then you have deep breathing. When you're anxious, your breathing becomes very shallow, and you take in less oxygen and you release less carbon dioxide. If for that moment you just stop a minute, breathe in and out. Listen, tell yourself, breathe in, breathe out. breathe in, that itself calms you down. If it's possible, go for a walk, because anxiety triggers adrenaline and cortisol. And so if you walk it off, it will calm down, it will reduce the adrenaline and cortisol, because high adrenaline and cortisol suppress immune function and actually makes you sick. You don't want that. So trying to use that up by walking and praying and maybe reminding yourself some scripture and then doing your deep breathing, you come back calm. And then on top of that, magnesium helps to calm the nerves. If you want to boil some fennel and boil the fennel and drink, that is calming to the nerves. Chamomile is calming to the nerves. So these also will help. Sometimes anxiety also, it could be due to some deficiencies that you might have. So it's good to look at the root cause. Look at when it started or why it started. Okay.
Wow, that was a lot of information there. Hope you could take notes of that. The person who asked the question. That definitely helps everyone else as well. I think I'll ask.
If they leave their information, I can write it down and I can send it to them. So
Right.
yeah, I don't mind doing that. If you want to leave your information, please, and then I'll send it to you, or I'll send it to Brother Sanjay and he'll forward it.
Okay, no problem. I think I'll ask the last two questions before we close. How does one treat, or should I say reverse, thyroid?
Thyroid dysfunction is to do with your endocrine system. I don't know whether it's overactive or underactive. Either way, God's plan. You know, I'm like a broken record. God's plan, God's plan, God's plan. And then, removing certain foods, dairy products, for example, the same foods that tend to cause dysfunction in the body, I would remove. And then I would add iodine to my diet. Iodine in the form of sea vegetables. Now, I'm kind of researching sea vegetables and their use or their necessity in terms of looking back at Genesis at the things that God gave us to eat, that He said would be good for us, very good for us. But at the moment, I haven't done that full research yet. So at the moment, kelp has some iodine because it's a sea vegetable. There are also some other greens like spirulina, and that will have some amount of iodine. So I think I would definitely make sure I get some iodine in my diet, because lack of iodine can create hypo and hyperthyroidism. But again, there's information that I can forward to you. I compiled just a very short information that you can, maybe apply and see if it refers to you, because not everybody is the same. Some people say, oh no, I drink lots of water, but it might be that you're drinking, maybe you're also drinking tea and coffee, which affects thyroid function. So yeah, it's easier if I can send the information and then you can apply what applies to you.
Great. Final question. I know there are a few more questions, but I'm sorry to those of you who asked questions you could not answer. Maybe you can bring those questions back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get more time to answer some of the questions that have not been answered. The final question is, will eating onion and garlic with our meals help us in increasing our immune system?
Yes, it can help, but not if you're doing all the other things that destroy immunity. So if you're doing all the other things that are destroying your immunity, having lots of sugar, having late nights, not drinking water, not exercising, not eating good food, eating dairy products, eating lots of meat, and then you said, I'm going to resolve it by just eating onions and garlic, no, that will not work. I think that's why some people, it's easier if they just get a pill or if they just get an injection, because they will refuse to obey God's plan. Because it takes effort. It takes you making your mind to obey God. And sometimes we don't want to, because I like certain foods. I like sugar, I like cake, and I don't want to stop. In which case, you have to choose the other way. It's really as simple as that. Because you can't serve two masters. Jesus said that. So if you're going to eat onions and garlic, that is good. But then you also have to stop eating those things that suppress immunity. Otherwise, just eating the onions and garlic will be counterproductive to helping your immune system.
Thank you. I think it's now 3:50 here in UK. So in 10 minutes it'll be 4 o'clock. I'll pass the time over back